So today, myself is Alan Wong and Bert van der Linden. We're both part of the ST Engineering iDirect team, and we are here to talk about the ground system, ground segment innovation, and how they will help unblock the roadblocks for growth. All right, so let's get started. There are three major trends in the industries, and many of you are at least somewhat familiar with them. And these trends represent major opportunities in the SATCOM industry. So first of all, it has been a roadblock for SATCOM growth for a long time, which is largely the lack of standard in SATCOM world and the lack of interoperability between networks, especially terrestrial and SATCOM. So therefore, there's a very strong need for compatibility with these standards, especially on the telco side, MAP and 5G, 3GPP standards. And also there's a need for end-to-end service orchestration. The second opportunity, you come to the satellite show, I'm sure you know, of the dynamic space segment development. These are huge innovation. There's a whole new generation of satellites, multi-orbit operation, software-defined, onboard processing. These things will significantly increase the amount of bandwidth available, and also at the same time enable a lot of new use cases, low latency, Arctic use cases, sporadic use cases, a lot of dynamic use cases that previously does not make any business sense. They are going to require resource orchestration to put that all together. And thirdly, this is on the deployment side. Everybody knows that on the telecom side, everything has already gone onto the cloud, and this is going to happen to the SATCOM world as well. Right? Everything will be virtualized, generic hardware platform, and it's going to enable a lot of new business case that previously, again, does not make economic sense. All right, so with that said, SATCOM operator face numerous challenges. In the past, operational complexity and a lot of manual processes. I don't know if you heard about some of these stories. There are definitely stories out there where certain SATCOM network cannot be reconfigured by the operator themselves, and it has to be done by the vendors, technical support, right? So generally, configuring SATCOM is complicated. So the questions are, will the new ground segment be able to automate a lot of these processes? And will the new ground segment be able to even sense things before you even know it and address them before you even find out? And just let you know, hey, I fixed it for you. Secondly, optimizing for satellite capacity. In the past, when you design a new satellite, you have to have a crystal ball to look out 15 years from now and figure out exactly where the demands will shift from one place to another, where your business will grow from one location to another, or from one use case, one industry, one segment to another. Now, with software-defined satellite, you no longer have to look into the crystal ball as much because you can reconfigure the resources on the satellite. However, the resource optimization become a real-time job. Now you have to do that every single day because you have the tool to do that, and you don't do it, your competitor will, right? So will the ground segment be able to respond to those changes and respond to those changes quickly? And will the ground segment be able to self-organize? That's a new buzzword, reorganization, self-organization. Because planning the satellite capacity in real time is hard enough. If you also have to plan every single detail of the carrier configuration and carrier distribution, that would be even tougher, and that would just compound the load. So you're looking for a ground segment that can reorganize itself. Scale and speed to market. This is how you gain market share. And this is how you become profitable. And you need a ground segment to do that allows you to do that. Network deployment. You don't want a one-size-fits-all deployment scheme. This is true for most ground segment in the past. You buy some equipment, you stack them in the rack, put them in the data center. That's the only way you can do it. You no longer want that because there is no one-size-fits-all business model. Your business will go from one place to another. Every gateway location is different. Every place will operate differently with different resources, different connectivity. You need multiple deployment model for your new ground system. And last but not least, your customer demand better security, better resiliency. So you have to be able to deliver that with the new ground system. So we're introducing Intuition in the show. And this morning we unveil Intuition as our new platform. And what is Intuition platform? It is an advanced satellite network ground system based on a virtualized, cloud-native, multi-orbit architecture that capitalizes on the latest standard-based technology, and also at the same time unify all the best capability from iDirect. And this slide shows you all of these key capabilities. First of all, ST Engineering iDirect has a lot of industry best technologies, and we're bringing all of these into the new Intuition platform, and we're also making investment protection for all of our customers operating existing platforms. Virtualized cloud-based architecture. This allows you to scale services very quickly, securely, for fast return on investment. Intelligent multi-orbit support. Almost every major satellite operator are either operating multi-orbit already or looking into the scenario of introducing NGSO satellites. So this is important because different orbit allow for different advantages, and you need a combination of them to cover all the use cases and all the applications. Standard-based network convergence. It allows for efficient integration with the terrestrial world and allows satellite network to function seamlessly in the global communication world. End-to-end orchestration. This is a piece that would enable that integration and to truly allows the SATCOM network to be part of the global communication. It allows for automation, end-to-end orchestrating, service creation, and teardown. And last but not least, we'll be able to support flexible go-to-market models, and this is going to help operators to expand the customer base and include the broadest range of business model. There you go. So this is going to be a journey, and we're going to empower you for this journey. We are going to align our technology with the latest communication standard, and we're going to build on the trusted product, the trusted platforms. You all know them: Evolution, Dialog, and Velocity. And we're going to incorporate all of those best technology into the Intuition platform. And we're also going to ensure all those investments are future-proof. Now, our first step is to take into all the industry best technology and integrate them into one single platform. And that includes the high throughput, high efficiency waveform, global bandwidth management, advanced mobility, our high density hub that are journey enabled, a very high throughput modem portfolio, Our next step, okay, now that we have the foundation, with the industry best technology base, our next step, and which is actually what we're currently working on right now, is to virtualize the ground segment. And my colleague Bert here is going to go into a lot more detail in the steps we've taken. And I'm going to take you through, maybe give you a little bit of teaser, because ultimately we would like to see many of you at our booth, and then we can share with you some of the demonstrations. The next step on this ladder is the evolution to the next generation satellite. And that is going to include multi-orbit and software-defined satellites. And the next step of this innovation evolution is going to be the incorporation of the 5G standard. So with that said, I'm going to hand it over to my colleague.
Thanks, Alan. Thanks, Alan. So, as an introduction to the platform, thanks. Intuition launched this morning at 11 o'clock. So actually, Intuition is the combination of the total end-to-end platform where you have both ground segment and the remotes. So might be not so visible just from a distance. So would please invite you to our booth, which is at the end of the hallway, to get more insights. But key is the platform builds hierarchically, where of course in the middle you have our data path, all built from virtual functions, and a transition along that path from going, in baseband. Typically, we're used to deploy PNF, so physical baseband functions. We are on the transition to bring that fully into the cloud and to go fully software. You've probably seen yesterday morning the announcement of the WAVE consortium, so we are active member in that WAVE consortium trying to standardize the whole data path and the way we deploy that environment. So the middle part, Intuition data plane, consists of those virtual network processing functions, the baseband, then digital or analog. It's key value prop for us that you can still support both variants, so we have a smooth transition, a smooth journey of current analog to the antenna transmission and moving that in a full IP workflow using the Diffie standard. On top, our new Intuition NMS that both supports configuration management and metrics and alarming, as well as resource control of the compute you need to be able to host that Intuition data plane. Exposes also an interface, an API towards northbound resource controllers of any kind, telco, as well as the satellite resource controller, as Alan spoke to. There's a lot of, the previous session was all about software-defined satellites. There's a lot of dynamics required also on the ground that will flow through the APIs on the NMS and on the resource controller to then have a full flow-through provisioning all the way to those individual functions. If we zoom in a bit more, what are the building blocks of the digital ground? 4 areas actually. The way we hand off to the antenna, already mentioned, this goes from traditional analog L-band to Diffie. Smooth transition from PNF's physical network functions appliance towards fully software-based. So second function is our hybrid virtualized and physical baseband functions that are then fed by the what we call protocol processor or packet processor or network processing functions, all deployed in VMs and containers. With on top the management system, the NMS. So we can scale dynamically if more resources are requested. We can provision this all the way through from the NMS into the orchestration system to spin up containers and VMs. We optimize our costs on a whole workflow. We go from narrowband to wideband. Wideband means a lot of megahertz to process, a lot of gigabits to transfer. So typically the area of when do you deploy still physical functions or you already go to software. There's a whole TCO modeling behind that, and we support the whole spectrum and options to have that smooth transition. What are the demos at the show? In those 4 areas, on top, our new NMS, which is hosted in AWS, overlooking the complete data path from the network processing, the baseband, all the way to the remote, with a new user interface, new APIs. So I welcome you to see that demo. Then on the network, on the data path, we have the virtual network processing. In cooperation with Microsoft, we run the data path live as we speak in a fully active mode. So we have real modems connected to the data path. The virtual network processing is hosted in a region nearby, and then we connect out to what we call a simulated teleport, or actually our iDirect data centers, where we simulate a satellite to then show you a full end-to-end flow. Where on the digital part, we have a demo together with the guys from ETL, showing you in what direction the Diffie standard goes. 1.2, you need to recover the clock, as an example. So all those capabilities we master. And on the remote side, demo on both the Diffie side as well as the virtual modem. And this is in a nutshell, so I'm going to dive into some more details or just a recap. Network processing in cloud. So this is an overview of our demo, which you can, at any time come witness. If you want to get more details, then contact our booth staff, and we walk you over to the Microsoft meeting rooms to show you the system in action with dashboards on capacity we use on their region. In this case, so it's deployed in Europe, in Amsterdam, and we connect out to our offices in St. Nicholas, acting as a teleport, where we have then the STE iDirect lab in Europe is actually acting as a gateway to prove that we can get traffic end-to-end all the way from the internet or from the customer network all the way to the modem with high throughputs. Even the whole system runs on on a cloud infrastructure. So very powerful. The next demo is the virtual modem. So virtual modem means for us a virtual modem both on the remote as well as on ground. Of course, depending on the requirements, virtual modem on the remote has its own requirements regards to the COGS and the TCO. On the hub side, it's all about throughput, density, power consumption, flexibility to run S2X, S2X, X2X MRC, future 5G NR. So software programmable infrastructure is what we need, and that's where the COTS infrastructure is the way to go. Also alluding again to the Wave Consortium, where we actively will work together with the other industry members and customers to define that common infrastructure. Digitization, recap, the Diffie 1.2 demo together with ETL in their booth. Our traditional modems connected to digitizer channelizers, showing what we do on the 1.2 Diffie standards. And then last year we did demonstrate the interop with outdoor digital units, digital buck, to go immediately in IP from the modem all the way to the antenna. Cloud-based NMS, as I said in the beginning, a new NMS deployed fully cloud native. Demonstration here at the booth is fully deployed in AWS and overlooks the platform that just showed. As a recap, so intuition, it's there. We have a whole trajectory in front of us. to transition our current customers, but also to arrive in the new software-defined world where dynamics, resource control, and cloud are important. So I would like to welcome you at the booth, and I'm open the floor for questions if there are any. There is a microphone here.
Can you talk a little bit about the different type of deployment strategy?
Sure. So of course, while the intro was heavily, and also on the demo, we demonstrate the packet processing in region means fully making use of the cloud scalers of, in this particular case, in Azure. But it's not limited to that type deployment. The moment you prove that your workflow runs on real, off-the-shelf scalers of the cloud vendors, you can port it to any environment. So that means our data path, our video network, our virtual network functions are fully, abstracted from the hardware underneath. So yes, today we can ship, we call it a full stack, including servers, virtualization layer, all the way to racking and stacking. But that's not the only deployment model. We can also deploy in the edge of the cloud provider. So with Azure, we are discussing how to use their Nexus stack, the ODG concept. With Amazon, it could be like Outpost as infrastructure that you typically rent from the cloud providers at the edge. Other type customers which have their own data centers. The moment they have a decent virtualization layer, then the porting to that environment becomes much easier if you have a fully cloud native architecture. And that's actually what we're proving here at the show, that our approach is as much as possible abstraction from the hardware, portable over the different cloud infrastructure, going from our own private stack all the way to region and to customer private stack.
Bert, could you touch on maybe the kind of more complicated subject of baseband virtualization? I mean, where do we think it is staying right now? I mean, certainly there's a lot more challenges in that area.
Well, the challenges are actually, I would call it TCO, total cost of ownership, for our customers. And what it means is typically our market is high throughputs, lots of megahertz to process, lots of throughput to process, or lots of megabits to process in a complex waveform, environment. Shared medium, TDMA, MRC requires a lot of processing, typically at the hub side modem. So there we are, balancing between the amount of megahertz to process, TCO, and flexibility of that environment. An environment where we are in, architectures where we need to process a full Ka band and more. We're talking about gigabits to process. Our customers are looking at high density, as low as possible TCO. That means not only the infrastructure cost, but also the power cost, rack size cost. So the more you go to the right on throughput, today with the current, I would call it technology, it's still a challenge to be on par TCO-wise with what we call PNFs, physical network functions. When you go to the left, more the narrow band applications, they're really, it's all about how quick can you spin up, a new feed to a satellite, in disaster recovery use cases, for instance, where you don't have permanent use, you don't require permanent use of that capacity. There we see the values of the VBFs, virtual baseband functions, all deployed on what we call server or common off-the-shelf infrastructure, all or not accelerated with FPGA, depending again on the throughput. So on I would call it the solution there, will go all the way from software only over software accelerated with FPGAs. Still COTS, a Xilinx card in a server is today by the industry accepted as common off the shelf. If you go really high throughputs and you are confronted with 24/7 landing a lot of megahertz on a teleport there, in our opinion today the PNFs, so the physical network functions, are still the most cost-effective solution. So remote PHY, to use other words, is today still the way to go, but we're moving into a fully virtualized environment. So, and the nice thing on iDirect with Intuition is that we support both those platform strategies or deployment strategies. So you have both the software next to the hardware or appliances, and we let the customer choose what option they need in function of total cost of ownership, in function of the dynamics, in function of their requirements, depending on region and their cloud journey. Because if you go to cloud, of course, also our customers has to change the way they work. So not all customers are yet ready to fully software wire such a workflow. So that's where the hybrid model still makes sense today. But it's definitely our strategy to move that all to software over time.
So truly, what we want to emphasize is, there is no one-size-fits-all deployment model, right? You have fully virtualized on one end, and then you have fully hardware-based appliances on the other end, and Intuition will support a wide spectrum of these deployment models. I think that's what we're trying to bring home, right? Okay. All right, so thank you very much. Thank you for staying with us, and we wish you have a great show. And our booth is just right behind you. If you look behind you, 180 degrees, you'll find a booth. We'd love to see all of you, and we have a lot of great demo to show you.
Thank you.